Well, I would describe myself as a Catholic. Then I describe myself as a writer. I don't usually use Catholic as a modifier of writer. I mean, for me, just putting subject, verb, object together is hard enough. So I don't really think of myself as anything when I'm writing. Maybe I don't even think of myself as a writer in a way. I just work. But I am a Catholic. Just like I don't think of myself as a woman writer, even though I am a woman and I am a writer.
A Catholic writer, not to be too literal about it, is a Catholic who writes. That can mean several different things. I tend to think that Catholic writers fall into three categories. First are the faithful, observant Catholics. Secondly, there are people who were raised Catholic, whose formation is Catholic. They've become agnostic, atheist, secular, but they still see the world in fundamentally Catholic terms. And then there's a third category of writer who are Catholics who have left the church and have become anti-Catholic, yet they are obsessed with the church and its many failings. I mean, all three of these categories are Catholic writers. We think of an observant Catholic like Flannery O'Connor in the first, category. You think of somebody like Anthony Burgess in the second, still fundamentally Catholic, although he doesn't go to Mass. And in the last, category, you even have people, great writers like Charles Baudelaire, who essentially has left the church, feels he is in some sense damned, is deliberately blasphemous, but his whole worldview, his means of expression are so deeply Catholic is that you can't understand them truly from any other perspective.
My role in my writing is the same thing as my role in real life, and that is, number one, I teach at a public school. I have a secular publisher, so I'm usually in a secular world, and I feel that even in that world, you can open up questions of faith. You're not necessarily answering those questions, because I find that kind of presumptuous, but I think even in this day and age, just opening up those questions is important. And, I feel in my real life and in my writing life, it's important just to walk with people. The last time I went to confession, I was talking about, I won't tell you what I was talking about, but, the priest said to me, don't worry about this person's faith, just love them. And just love them, and God will take care of the rest. And I think if we just walk with people, that's a lot. And I try to walk with people in my real life, but there are limitations, of course, in real life. You don't have the same experiences as other people. You're not the same demographic as other people. You're not the same location. But I have characters who have all kinds of experiences and all kinds of demographics, and they're across the world. So they can be my proxies to walk with people. And I get lots of, emails from readers that I would have nothing in common with in real life, but they really connect to my characters, and my characters have walked them through a lot of the things that they've been going through.
It would be impossible for me to say that I am not a Catholic writer. Although it's not something that I advertise. And that's partly for a couple different reasons. The main one being that I always felt a slight tension actually between what it means to be a person of faith and what it means to commit to being a writer. And I remember actually this distinct moment when I was in college where I was wondering if I really were a faithful person, would I elevate my writing above God, Like, shouldn't I just burn all of it? And that was a painful sort of question to be carrying around with myself, because writing gave me so much pleasure and gave me so much internal freedom and a purpose. And, well, I decided not to burn the writing. And that's why we're here, partly, is that that I've made a life of writing.
So I definitely describe myself as a Catholic artist. I think especially now in which I work for the Catholic Artists Connection in New York City. And so I feel like that role is explicit because it's taking on this role for the sake of a community, which seems very Catholic, right? To identify as a Catholic artist for the sake of drawing together other Catholic artists who are all along the spectrum of writing very devotional art or art that's dealing with very Catholic subjects, or people that go to church but don't really intersect or explicitly see how the faith and art intersect. I think I've identified as a Catholic artist just because I feel like if you're trying to write plays, which is my literary artistic medium, if you're trying to write plays as a Catholic artist, if you're trying to write plays that deal with sort of the deepest level of the human spirit, you're always going to be writing about grace. And so often when people ask me if I'm a Catholic artist, they ask if I, do you write about Teresa of Avila, or what are your plays about? Sort of hoping that they'll be about something.
Not always doing it explicitly, but refers to the funeral of John Paul II, and often the origin of the origin of the first book was written just after he died. So the source was almost a gift. So the source was Catholic. But I very much function in the world in between. I go to AWP, which is Association of Writers and Poets, and most of them have no idea that I might be Catholic unless they really read carefully and also know the references.
Flannery O'Connor was very uncomfortable with it because she knew that that could get you exiled to a writer's ghetto where it was thought that you were only speaking to other Catholics. I certainly don't think I'm speaking to just other Catholics. But, I think that we're capacious enough now in a world in which people are always self-identifying. If we think of a Jewish poet or a Muslim poet, we don't necessarily think of a Jewish poet only speaking to Jewish people or a Muslim only speaking to Muslims. So I'm hoping that we're broad enough now to be able to manage those kinds of labels without exiling them to some kind of ghetto, the way that in O'Connor's time she really felt as though she would be exiled by that term. The other problem with it is, and she was wise to be concerned about this, sometimes people who think of themselves as Catholics before they think of themselves as writers are not very good writers. And then your work, it's like when you hear people talk about Christian rock. That's not going to be good rock, right? Because they have designs on you. They want to make you something that you're not. Our job as writers, again, I'll quote O'Connor, she's my literary saint, is you have your hands full just making your art as well as you possibly can. You don't want to be an evangelist. Leave the evangelization to the evangelists. So you want to be a writer first who happens to be Catholic.
Yes, I would consider myself a Catholic writer. In the broader sense, that's who I am. So whatever I say is going to come from that central position, that immanent and transcendent sense. So it's taken me a while to come to that, to say that publicly. It's not something that was easy when I was starting out, in the academic world. You tended to kind of hide it in a sense. But as I've gotten older, I get prouder of it, and that's just who I am. So they can, I hope they take it, but if they can't, then they can leave it. Okay, so that's how I feel. Yeah.